South Africans watched last night anticipating another dull political debate. What they saw was a moment that would prove to be a watershed in the country's political drama, a high-stakes confrontation in which Ivan Meyer, the stalwart and Western Cape finance mech, annihilated President Cyril Ramaphosa in a television broadcast live and unbridled. Viewers were left gaping and ANC operatives scrambled overnight to clean up the mess. Ramaphosa has been regarded for years as the statesman, smooth, suave, and precisely calculated in what he says. His image as a steady hand has enabled him to ride out scandals, economic woes, and attacks from opposition forces. But in this live broadcast, the mask seemed to slip. Not only did Meyer dismantle the president's scripted talking points, but also exposed what he referred to as the ANC's secret agenda to keep South Africans dependent, desperate, and divided. The exchange started in polite enough fashion, both leaders making prepared speeches. Ramaphosa relied strongly on tried and tested words of renewal and unity, recalling the ANC's freedom heritage for viewers. He talked of advancement, reconciliation, and the promise that the ANC remained a party of hope. But Ivan Meyer was quick to cut through the niceties. He walked forward, voice unflustered, and issued a sharp challenge that transformed the energy of the room in an instant. Mr. President, Meyer started, with 30 years of ANC government behind us, why do South Africans continue to sit in the dark with load shedding, continue to walk with no jobs, and continue to be confronted with corruption at every turn? Who is this mayhem for if not the people? The silence that followed was like thunder, more deafening than applause. The moderators hesitated too, not knowing whether to interrupt. For the first time on television, Ramaphosa looked visibly flustered. The president, who had a reputation for keeping cool even in the face of adversity, now had a challenger armed with criticism as well as proof. Meyer arrived armed with municipal performance reports, budget allocation inconsistencies, and a paper trail of ANC policies he charged were specifically designed to undermine opposition-held areas. He charged the ANC with sabotaging DA-governed municipalities by holding up national transfers and employing cadre deployment to ensure loyalty over talent in government placements. Those intentional decisions had made service delivery crisis worse and led to further poverty. Meyer said this government is afraid of independent, prosperous citizens. Meyer declared, voice rising with passion, they want South Africans stuck in a loop where the ANC can pretend to be savior. But the reality is there are the crisis. The studio audience exploded. Some shouted, others gasped, but all eyes were fixed on Ramaphosa, who shuffled his papers and struggled to compose himself. The moderators promptly appealed to the audience to be respectful, but the momentum in the room had been irreversibly altered. Ramaphosa attempted to justify the ANC record, blaming global economic pressures, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and global instability. But Meyer would not let the president off so easily. When Ramaphosa addressed actions being taken to bring load shedding to an end, Meyer responded without hesitation, Mr. President, you have been making promises about an end to load shedding for over a decade. South Africans don't require promises, they require power. The sparring intensified when Ramaphosa said the ANC was still committed to anti-corruption. Meyer's riposte was deadly. You preside over a party where those accused of state capture are sitting comfortably in parliament today. How can you talk of renewal when the rot is shielded at the highest level? Every comeback appeared to erode the president's previously impenetrable aura. Witnesses said his responses grew shorter, more defensive, and more repetitive, a far cry from Meyer's sharp, fact-driven retorts. The turning point of the evening was when Meyer did the unthinkable and blamed the ANC for intentional economic sabotage. He took a moment, gazing directly into the camera, and said, let's be clear, poverty is not just a tragedy in South Africa. It is the ANC's political strategy. Because when people are hungry, when people are hopeless, they will cling to the handouts the ruling party dangles before elections. This is not governance. This is abuse. The crowd gasped aloud. Even the moderators were taken aback. surprised and looked at one another as if they didn't know what to do next. The seriousness of the charge, implying not incompetence but volitional damage, hung in the air. Ramaphosa's counterattack, a general appeal for cooperation and pulling together, sounded glib and failed to resonate. In a matter of minutes, videos of Meyer's takedowns dominated social media sites. Hashtags #Ramaphosa exposed, #Meyer vs Posa, and #AndChitAgenda trended, garnering millions of views well before the debate had ended. TikTok videos and Twitter threads analyzed every second from Meyer's sharp one-liners to Ramaphosa's struggling reactions. Political pundits across top networks did not hesitate to announce Meyer as the runaway victor of the evening. The commentators noted that Ramaphosa took a presidential stance, but his arguments were shallow. Meyer, by contrast, struck a chord directly with the frustration and outrage of ordinary South Africans who are fed up with years of unfulfilled promises and corruption-related scandals. The DA social media team quickly jumped on the bandwagon to seize the momentum. Within a matter of hours, they uploaded highlight reels on various platforms presenting Meyer as the sole leader who was prepared to speak truth to power. Influencers, journalists, and civil society leaders reacted positively to Meyer's performance. Some celebrated him as the man who finally spoke out, something that millions of citizens have muttered in anger. Even veteran critics of the DA had to admit that Meyer's pinpoint strikes had cornered Ramaphosa like no opposition figure previously. For the ANC though, the night was a public relations disaster. The party's loyalists rushed to the president's defense in late-night interviews claiming that the debate was unfairly weighted or that Meyer had breached ethical standards. But the image was already tainted. Viral moments going around online told a stark story far from stability and leadership. Ramaphosa now seemed evasive, old-fashioned, and outgunned. While one election will not determine the 2024 electoral landscape or the years that follow, the symbolism last night cannot be overstated. To many South Africans, Ivan Meyer stepped out not just as a provincial leader, but as a possible national figure with the guts to address the ANC's deepest shortcomings. Where opposition leaders habitually walk carefully to escape criticism, Meyer's unflinching style stimulated debate.